Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We're in the Gospel, Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 through 20. This is a short passage, but it really brings home the difference between the law and the gospel. Jesus says, I'm not here to abolish the law of the prophets. Now, in one sense, that word law there really is a reference to the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament written by Moses, which contain both law and the promises of God, the gospel. But Jesus is also speaking about the law of God, which all of humanity is under the law of God, and it is the measure of God's perfection that if we are going to do life on our own terms, we have to live in complete obedience to the law. The law of God calls us into account, and it never goes away from this life. And the law of God is if you're going to show how wonderful you are, you have to keep it perfectly. Oops, that's the problem. We can't. We all fall short of the glory of God, as Paul says in Romans 3. So Jesus says, I've not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill them. Now, he's talking about the Torah and the prophets. He's talking about fulfilling the messianic prophecies. But he goes on, truly I tell you, not one letter from the law will go away, right? So no part of the law will be set aside until everything is accomplished. And what does Jesus accomplish? In his cross and resurrection, what he accomplishes, not the law, it's the will of God. Jesus pays the price, gives his life as a ransom. He gets no reward for keeping the law. So he goes on in verse 19, everyone who sets aside the law is going to be least in the kingdom of God. They're going to be condemned. And whoever practices or teaches that you can set it aside, well, that's nonsense. We can't set aside God's law. We have no authority to set aside God's law. And God's law is always there to judge us because we fall short of our own good works and good efforts, right? Jesus goes on to say, whoever practices and teaches the law will be called great in the kingdom of God. The only one who's fulfilled the law is Jesus Christ. But he gets no great reward for this. He's not exalted above creation because he's kept the law. We're not there yet, right? And he says, unless your righteousness exceeds the Pharisees. Well, even the Pharisees can't do that. He says, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of God. It's a no-go. Well, how are we going to get into the kingdom of God? Why is Jesus, let's back up. Why is Jesus exalted? He was not exalted because he kept the law. Rather, he bears the complete accusation of the law for you and me, for all of humanity. This is the reason why he was baptized for you and me. And he who knew no sin became sin. He took on the curse, as it says in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. The law accused and attacked Christ, even though he was sinless, because he took on all of our sin, the sin of all humanity, of all creation, and he becomes the one and only sinner, right? And as the law kills Christ, he's judged under the law, and on the third day is raised. And so the law was not honored when he was raised. The law performed its duty when it judged him for sin. But the law was emptied of its power, had nothing more to do because it condemned Christ. And so Jesus is exalted not because he kept the law, because he was judged by the law. And because he was cursed by the law and overcame the law by his resurrection, we enter the kingdom of God. This is verse 20. Not by our works, not by the law, but by Christ, because Christ took on the curse of the law. So there it is. 4 very powerful verses. Thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.